So let me introduce myself. I'm Sabina González Vilas. I'm the Program and Interfaith Dialogue Manager at the Chapel for Europe in Brussels. The Chapel for Europe is in fact a spiritual heaven right at the heart of the EU institutions. Though it's rooted in the Catholic tradition, our chapel lives with an ecumenical spirit and an interreligious soul, opening its doors to people of all faiths and none. As you can see, we believe that Europe has a soul, one that thrives when minds meet, hearts listen, and spirits grow together. This year, as we celebrate our 25th anniversary, we are more committed than ever for showing how spirituality can inspire connection, healing, and hope in the public life. My journey began in Spain with a master in journalism, but it was here in Brussels, especially after the 2015 attacks, that I realized that dialogue must go beyond Christian unity. It must embrace the city's rich religious diversity. And that calling led me to deepen my formation in Islam, in Jewish-Christian dialogue, and now with my PhD in the culture of unity at Sofia University in Lopiano, in Italy, under the guidance of Dr. Benny Cabello and Dr. Roberto Catalano. We are in fact working at the intersection of faith and policy, especially through Article 17 of the Lisbon Treaty. I've seen how faith-based organizations can be powerful partners for social cohesion, and inspired by the 2024 Council of Europe Conference on how their interreligious dialogue can renew European democracy, I embarked on a mission to show that spirituality isn't separate from public life. It's essential to it. I hope that this extract from my PhD introduction summarizes the lines of investigation that I intend to pursue. In fact, it is true that the complex and often tense relationship between religion and democracy has shaped pivotal moments in modern history. Just to mention a few, like the secularization movements in France, like in the 1905 laïcité laws, or the religious resistance to state authority, like the Catholic Church in Poland. This enduring tension between faith-based values and democratic principles continues to influence political landscapes, revealing both the possible potential for mutual enrichment. In 1998, the Council of Europe emphasized that democracy and religion need not be incompatible, recognizing the potential for religious values to fortify democratic societies. At the heart of this democratic process is the recognition of others as transformative agents of growth and understanding, with some religious actors having played a relevant role in promoting empathy and fostering meaningful dialogue. As sociologist Hartmut Rosa asserts in his book, Democracy Needs Religion, democratic societies should strive to build consensus around shared values and to do it with a listening heart. Hartmut Rosa points out that democracy needs religion, but not in a doctrinal sense, but rather that religious institutions deserve to preserve spaces and practices like silence, ritual, and communal listening. In a world dominated by speed and efficiency, these slow, attentive experiences help to cultivate the empathy and openness. For Rosa, religion can nurture this listening heart, which is a disposition to be moved by others in the world. Without this, democratic dialogue risks to become hollow and instrumental. It's not about dogma, but about the emotional and ethical. It's not about dogma. It's about the emotional and ethical capacities to sustain. Monsignor Piero Coda underscores the importance of religious institutions in promoting a culture of and a spirit of unity. Today, a political culture of unity is lacking because a spirit of unity is missing. And then, on the other side, we have the European Union acknowledging some threats, both internal and external, as evidenced by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in his Defense of Democracy package presented in her 2022 State of the Union speech. These threats that in some way we could say that faith-based voices could bring a spirit of unity and a listening heart are disinformation, manipulation of public opinion, media interference, the risk to civil society and civic space, and electoral vulnerabilities. So we could say that in this context, the question arises, could faith-based organizations, FBOs, be considered as relevant players in strengthening democracies? So, in conclusion, while acknowledging the complexities inherent in the relationship between religion and democracy, it could be meaningful to explore the FBO's potential to support and strengthen democratic structures in Europe. But we don't have to forget that this, let's say, role of the faith-based organization can also, we have to take into account the perils of religion in destabilizing democracy. As Danielle Santarelli says in her article, Religion, one moment, Religion is and Politics, Interactions, Boundaries, and Paradoxes, she highlights historical and modern cases where religious authority intersects with political power, sometimes reinforcing legitimacy and other times fueling division. This can be seen, of course, in a clear example in Hungary, where the government has increasingly aligned with conservative Christian values, promoting policies that link national identity with Catholicism. This fusion has led to restrictions on LGBTQ rights, attacks on academic freedom, and reduced funding for NGOs supporting minorities. On the other hand, Rachel Foster, as a policy associate in religious engagement in the NGO Search for Common Good, presents some compelling reasons to consider religious actors as key players in preserving democracies, as she says in the Right-Sizing Religions Actor Role in Democratic Process, published in 2024. So, to have a very quick look over this, she says that religious actors are integral to civil society. So, along NGOs, trade unions, academia, religious actors play an essential role in advocating for social causes. Secondly, she says that popular legitimacy and resilience is an important role of religious actors. And for example, in the past, in countries having a Soviet regime like Lithuania, religious actors have remained steadfast voices of political opposition, like the Lithuanian nun Nijol Sadūnaitė. Then also, we can see that the religious actors can become peacemakers in time of situations where there is a deep conflict, like in Northern Ireland during the elections and peace process, where Catholic and Protestant clergy were crucial in de-escalating the community tension and supporting the Good Friday Agreement. Also, religious leaders are equipped with a deep understanding of societal complexities and can serve as mediators in times of political turmoil, helping to de-escalate tensions and foster dialogue, like it happened in the Netherlands between 2002 and 2004, after the assassinations of Pien Fortuyn and Theo van Gogh. Christian, Jewish, Muslims, and humanist leaders formed crisis mediation platforms to prevent retaliatory violence. Then also, religious actors can contribute to the advancement of democratic principles in various ways, like in the Baltic states during the independence movements between 1987 and 1991. They defended not-violent protest movements like the Singing Revolution, who spoke against Soviet repression and for civic rights and encouraged peaceful democratic mobilization and free elections. Foster's arguments underscore the importance of engaging religious actors in democratic processes. Having both possibilities in mind, we will try to investigate the positive influence of religion in our democracies and to attain into the experiences of FBOs. And the FBOs, in order to have a pluralistic study, I will explore FBOs of different faith traditions that operate on both national and supranational levels in Europe. In the first step of this research, we will focus on the Hizmet movement from the Islam tradition, the Focolare movement from the Catholic Christian tradition, and Eurodiaconian, mainly Protestant and Orthodox tradition, while considering in the near future to engage with SBOs from Jewish and Buddhist tradition. So let's start with Hizmet. Why this organization was chosen? As you know, Hizmet movement champions peaceful coexistence, service to humanity, and social responsibility through its commitment to core values such as respect for human life, compliance with the rule of law, gender equality, and ethical action. One of the projects that will be studied took place in Belgium. It's called Citizen Z. This project aimed to respond to the European Commission priorities outlined in the European Democracy Action Plans. And they were doing it enhancing civic engagement and democratic participation of EU citizens, particularly youth aged between 15 and 25. Special attention is devoted to the intersectionality principle and those groups that are often affected by low levels of participation. This means migrants, disadvantaged communities, girls, and women. Then we move to the Focolare movement. The Focolare movement strives to fulfill Jesus' prayer, as the Gospel of John says, that they may all be one, promoting unity among all people to transform humankind into the family. Founded by Chiara Lubich, in the midst of the World War II, the movement quickly gained traction as more young people followed her example, forming the first Focolare community. The Focolare movement is committed to creating a more united society for fostering collaboration between individuals of different faiths and those without religious affiliation. One of its notable programs is called Dialogue, which means diverse identities allied, open to generate a united Europe. This is a European project initiated by a consortium of 14 civil society organizations from 9 EU member states and ended in November 2024. Its main objective is to foster intercultural and interreligious dialogue to strengthen EU citizenship and overcome national boundaries. The project focuses on thematic exchange among diverse groups, including Christians, Muslim, and non-confessional citizens. This project includes training for facilitators, international meetings, social campaigns, and the development of the Dialogue UE Kit, a set of recommendations for EU decision makers. And finally, Eurodiaconian, which is a network of Christian churches and diaconal service-oriented organizations. It was founded in 1985 and brings together over 50 member organizations across more than 30 countries, rooted mainly in Protestant and Orthodox tradition. The organization emerged from a growing need to coordinate Christian social action in Europe, especially in response to poverty, migration, and inequality. And one of its focus topics is Roma inclusion. They do it through advocacy, networking, and grassroots initiatives focused on education, anti-discrimination, and social services. It hosts a regular Roman Inclusion Network meetings, like the 2023 Budapest event with the Reformed Church of Hungary, to strengthen collaboration among diaconal organizations. The organization promotes inclusive education, combats anti-Gypsyism, and empowers Roma communities through participatory approaches. And well, that's it. I really thank you for your attention, and I hope I was there with you to share more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sabina. You showed us that democracy needs a soul, to say it in just 2 words. At the same time, you highlighted the very constructive role of religious organizations in supporting democracy, and you also warned against the risks of some religious organizations that might undermine democracy, and how it is important to remain critical and to avoid imbalances. Thank you very much. Stay with us for maybe a few minutes of Q&A. I invite Christina and Ashok to join us on the podium, and the floor is now to the audience. If anyone wants to raise an issue. Yes, the lady on the, 2 ladies on the 4th row, 3, yes, and then, yes. We begin with you.
Thank you for great presentations and contributions. My questions for Christina. Which experience during your research in Tanzania did you find most surprising or impactful?
Oh God, that's a very...
Sorry, can we maybe collect the other questions at the same time, and then take the answers?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll be brief. I'm very interested in global citizenship, and I'm wondering where the line is between the theoretical concept of creating global citizens and the political reality of being political citizens. And you can interpret that however you want.
I guess that's mainly a question for you, Ashok, yes?
I would like to ask Ashok, you showed these categories, and I'm not really sure if the section of Ummah is really in the same fitting like Ubuntu. The other terms, I'm not really involved in this terminology, but I'm asking myself if this is really fitting, because it's a bit selective. It's maybe homogenic in itself, like Ubuntu, but it's inclusive, the Muslim community, and exclusive, not for everyone. And then I have another question for Christina. After the coup, would you say the risk of not being able to go on with the schools also is important for the moment of emancipation, and all, with the self-confidence and the ability of access to education, has long-term problems in this area too. As it's not all just in Turkey that you have to close schools. We know that there are so many schools in the African continent who are confronted with this problem, or even have already experienced this situation, especially in the context with female education. What is your opinion?
Thank you. Very good questions.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, yeah, please.
You want the mic?
No, it's good to use the microphone, just that also Sabina can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabina. Your reference to Hartmut Rocha's democracy needs religion also is confronted with the question of transformation of both democracy and religion. Just to put it in perspective, 20 years ago, the dialogue between Pope Benedict and Jürgen Habermas, and my submission therefore is what kind of transformation is required for democracy and religion in terms of post-secular transformation, post-religious transformations, also transformation of the very foundation and practice of democracy. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep it at that for the moment. We start with Christina.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. The first one is very tough to answer. I've spent, I think, around 2 years there, so there have been so many surprising moments. I think in the beginning, because I came from my research in the lighthouses in Germany, so I had this perspective of the teachers very much, and had also this vision of these very dedicated women who really come there and dedicate their lives. This is how I started my research, also like this idea of sacrifice. And I think for me the surprise was that when I was at the school and I started to then interview also the students, that I that I had no idea who Gülen was, partly. I think this was a big surprise to me. How does, if I would ask questions like, oh, how does the idea of Gülen matter? They said, about who? Who do you mean? And this is something I found surprising. I really felt like, oh wow, this is also part of the social reality. So this made me question and also focus on this very different ideas and perspective you have within one of these contexts. And this is why I feel drawn so much to explain here also about the messiness, to see this is also part. You have, of course, this very dedicated teacher, but you also have the reality of a Christian student who has not really an idea who Gülen is. and they're both part of it. It doesn't mean that they're not going through this education and so on, but I think it's important to tell both stories. For Hilal, yes, there have been huge changes. In Tanzania, the schools are luckily still open. I think if the schools would not exist, as I tried to explain, I mean, for female education, I don't see it that way, to be honest, because it's a very competitive religious market of schooling, or private market of schooling. Religious schools are very high performing. There are many other high performing schools in the country. There is not a lack of private schools, but they are very particular for Muslim families, because you have this disadvantagement for Muslim families. And there I would see it would really be some like a thing that would miss, although they are not Islamic schools. But exactly this not being explicitly Islamic, but still not being a missionary school, not a Christian missionary school, was something very important for the Muslim family. So this would be a big gap for Tanzania. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. So I'll take your question first, ma'am. So that is exactly what I said. This was a constraint, and we made it very clear that we are not talking of national political boundaries. We are talking of universal values. We are talking of being a shared humanities concern for some of the problems which the whole globe is facing. And now, due to interconnectedness, large movements and mobilities, and also one problem of the world, affects the whole lot of problem of the world. So what are those competencies which the young children require over and above their own narrow national boundaries? That is what the purpose of this global citizenship is all about. So this is in that context. And ma'am, coming to your question, we were also faced with that. But we are taking this whole concept of humanity and belongingness, sacrificing for each other, concern for each other. So it is true that it may be that belonging to a faith, but then the faith can also the nationality and the national boundary can come even in the way of that faith, So going above that and taking it for the sake of humanity is where the global citizenship is heading to. So in one sense, you are right, it could be a constraint to put it in the same way. In the other sense, it is extending the possibility of that thought to the entire humanity. That is the whole idea. Thank you. Thank you. So I think we're running out of time
Over
also.
to Sabina. Sabina, did
Yeah.
you hear the question well?
Yes, I think so. But I will try to answer. For one side, this transformation, as you said in your question, is totally necessary. For once, I would say that there is a transformation within the policymakers in which they have to allow faith-based organizations to show their voice. But for that, I think that we have to even go a step back, and is religious literacy. I think nowadays, religious literacy, it's a need, a requirement for the people, at least I'm talking of the European landscape, okay? It's a need, it's a requirement for making good decisions. In that religious literacy, they will understand that our society has changed in Europe, that we are facing a multicultural, multi-faith society, and you need to understand that it's not homogeneous. And as we come from our history in Europe, this laïcité means that, let's say, religion and state have to be totally separated, which is how it has to be. But we have to take into account how these FBOs work on grounds that sometimes policymakers don't get to them. On the other side, FBOs have to really strengthen their voices and do it, although most of them, at least I can say here in Brussels, they are very professionalized. I would say they have to make a big effort to be even more professionalized with people who knows the necessities, who knows how to do things in a way to show a strong voice and see that these organizations are reliable, like other type of organizations that are NGOs. But these ones doesn't mean that they are faith-based, which makes them not reliable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabina, for this wise answer. The term religious literacy resonates to me because I'm very well aware that, especially in Europe, there's a lot of dwindling of religious consciousness, and this is obviously an enormous agenda for Hizmet also in Europe in particular. I'm afraid it's time to go for lunch. Thank you very much for your active contribution, and let's applaud ourselves.
Applaud for the audience also.
For the audience, yes. So I guess we can now go for lunch.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Professor. Yeah, thank you very much.